my favorite dish of life. It's called, I cannot. That's too lame. I'm not gonna intro it like that. What up, you guys? Welcome to my kitchen. Today, I'm gonna be showing you guys how to cook one of my all-time favorite dishes. It's a Filipino soup called Sinigang. My grandma used to make this for me growing up, and then my mom started to make it for me, and once I moved to LA and I started to live on my own, I realized I had to make it for myself. I'm just gonna tell you right now, making sinigang is really easy. It's basically like a stew. You just throw everything in the pot and let it cook itself. The main base and flavor of the soup comes from these tamarind packets that you can find at your local grocery store. I use local Asian grocery store, sorry. I usually use about 2 packets every time I make it, sometimes 2.5, depending on how much water you have in your pot and how sour you like your soup. Other than that, you're gonna need a tomato and an onion, and that's basically your soup base. And then the vegetables that you include, it really depends on you and your preference. I like to put a ton of veggies in there, so I always put these string beans. I also always put a ton of Kang Kong. I think in most grocery stores, they call it choy. In Tagalog, we call it Kang Kong, and I put a ton because I love like the crunch to the snap of the stem, and I just love leafy greens. I also always put radish and then okra. Some people don't like okra because of the slimy texture, but I love okra. You can also throw in eggplant. And if you can't find Kang Kong, because it actually is really hard to find sometimes, you can use spinach. You can also use like baby bok choy. Those both work really well. So the cut of meat that I always use is the beef Hind shank. And basically what I look for is the ones that have like this middle bone, because I love bone marrow. Me and my brothers always used to fight over it, like who would get it. And I don't know why I even like it. It's just filled with so much flavor. It always has a lot of meat to it also. So I'm just basically going to fill it so that the water covers the very top of meat. So I always start with cutting the string beans. I always line them up at the top and cut the tips off. And I like bite-sized chunks for my food, so I'm gonna cut it in about like a 2-inch length and just do that all the way through. So how I prep the Kang Kong is I like to just pinch off all the leaves. And then separately, I will chop the stems, similar to the way I did the string beans, like in a 2-inch chunk. So the meat's been boiling for about 20 minutes now, and you always want to keep checking on it periodically. And what I do is I check and clean for all this like extra meat residue and all these like fat pools just around the edge of the pot. You don't necessarily have to do this step, but I always like to clean it up because it makes the soup a lot cleaner. All the meat residue floating and then just like all these pools of fat. I like to get rid of some of that stuff, because what you don't want is, one time I've left that in, your lips get glossy and oily, and I don't like that. So I'll just keep cleaning it every maybe 20 minutes as long as I keep seeing this stuff. And once it's all gone, then you're pretty much done. The meat has been boiling for about an hour now, so it's pretty tender. So what I like to do, mostly for convenience, is chop the meat off of the bone. Put all the meat back. What I do is I'm gonna toss in the onions. And then I'm gonna take this tomato, this whole tomato, and I'm gonna toss it in here too. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let that tomato cook and almost blister open, and once it's nice and soft, I'm gonna take it out and then I'm gonna mush it and basically like break it all apart and then pour it back in there. And the tomato gives the soup base a really nice like tartness to it as well. It helps enhance the tamarind. I left the tomato in there for about 5 minutes, and once you see the skin blister open, you wanna take it out. And what I'm doing here is I'm basically just gonna mash this up until it's almost kind of like a smoother paste, and pour this back in. Okay, so I have the chopped up string beans, okra, and daikon, and I'm just gonna toss those all in here. Woo! I love greens, like it just adds so much color all of a sudden. Look at that. It's fresh. So these vegetables are now done cooking. They've been kind of boiling for maybe like 5 to 10 minutes. So I'm literally gonna shut off the flame now. Toss in the Kang Kong. And then I'm gonna put the lid back on. Kang Kong pretty much cooks in like 2 minutes. It cooks so fast. And I actually still like mine to be a little bit crunchy, like the stems have to have like a bite to it, so I don't want to overcook it. So I literally will turn the fire off and now move it off. Okay, I'm about to tell you guys a secret. And before you judge me, just hear me out, okay? My grandma growing up would always eat her sinigang with bagoong. And if you don't know what bagoong is, it's usually eaten with like mangoes or with kare-kare, which is a different Filipino dish, but it's basically a shrimp paste and it's super salty. You only use like really just a little bit, and it's not normal to eat it with sinigang, but I love it with sinigang, and I cannot eat sinigang without bagoong. And just trust me, just try it, because every single person I have made try it, they no longer eat it without bagoong. So you're welcome. Who needs to go to a restaurant to buy sinigang when you can just make it at home and put all the things that you like in it? This is literally like a bowl of love. I need to get a piece of meat, some veggies. I'm one of those people that with every bite I take, it has to have a little bit of everything in it every single time. The true test of if your sinigang is good is when you first taste the broth. If it doesn't like make like your taste buds here like tighten up from how sour it is, then it needs to be more sour. Woo! That is good. That is good. I have to try a bite with like everything in it. So a little bit of meat, a little bit of veggie. Well, that's it, guys. Thank you so much for joining me in my kitchen. I just love cooking. I've always loved cooking, and so I'm just so excited to start putting out cooking content, and I hope that you guys enjoy it. If you do decide to try making sinigang for yourself, take a picture, tag me, send it to me. I want to see it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye. Don't tell my mom, but I think mine's better.